We started chapter 2, and it talks about the special neshama, the special soul that a Jew has, a Jew possesses, and it's called the second soul. So it's explained that the godly soul that we have is called the second soul. Not just because we speak about it second. First we spoke about the physical soul and now about the godly soul. It's because it comes second to the person. And we started to talk about it in the previous classes. When a person is born, he is born with his physical soul. And we already explained what is a physical soul. A physical soul is a soul that we also call the animal soul, because in a sense it compares us to animals. In a sense that animals, all they know is about themselves. And all they worry about is to take care of themselves. They're self-centered. And we all have that soul that we just want to do what's good for ourselves. We're very absorbed, self-centered, self-absorbed. And this is something that we have. It's not our fault. That's being a human being, being a physical person. And that's all comes to us when we're born, as it says, and we call it Yetzer Hara, like it says, Yetzer Leva Adam Ra Minu Rav. When Hashem was upset with the behavior of humanity in the beginning of creation, it says, this is the way they are. Yetzer Leva Adam Ra Minu Rav. So what's Minu Rav? Says Rashi, Mishenin Ar. Rav means as soon as you're shaken off from the mother's womb, as soon as you're born, you already have your Yetzer Hara. Which Yetzer Hara means, in essence, it means the soul that is about what I want, what I need. And like we explained, that the Yetzer Hara, which is the spirit, the negative spirit, is taking advantage of our nature, right? Just like you take something, some people could take advantage of children, some people could take advantage of people who don't know too much. It's basically taking advantage that a person is very focused on what's good for me. Comes the Yetzer Hara and tries letzayer, yetzer from the word tziyur, letzayer to describe, to picture the sin, the evil, the wrong as the greatest thing and the most beautiful thing that you could do for yourself. Like we know with the first example of Chava, where the snake, he came as he was the representing the Yetzer Hara, and all he did was he described to her that eating from the tree, which was the greatest sin, was the greatest thing for her. It's tasty, it's going to make her knowledgeable, her and her husband, and this is what the Yetzer Hara does. So it's because of this nature of wanting to do what's good for me. So Yetzer Hara says, so logically we think, what's good for me? When you go to a doctor, right? The doctor knows that your body, he learned, he mastered, he understands body. And if he tells you have to take this pill and you can't eat this, you could eat that, you trust him. Because he learned body, he learned the human body, so he knows what he's talking about. So logically, Hashem created us. And if Hashem says, for Jewish people, this is the book of laws, this is what you could have, what you can't have, and what's going to damage your health, spiritual health, and ultimately also physical health, because it's all connected, like we say in Misheberach, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf. There's a story with the Baal Shem Tov. Once he went to help somebody who was very sick. So he said, you should have some chicken soup. And they didn't understand it. He cured. So he said that what he did was, he said that sometimes a person, a certain part of the body, every part of the body corresponds to a part of the soul. So it says in Kabbalah that the soul has 613 parts, which are compared to the 613 parts of the body. The Gemara says there's 248 physical organs, and there is not necessarily in today's medicine we recognize those as organs, but that's what it says in the Gemara, 248 and 365 arteries. Okay? So the same with the neshama. So when a person has illness in part of his body, it's corresponding to a part of his neshama which is connected with one of the 613 mitzvot that is not perfect. Okay? So we don't usually know. Sometimes we go to tzaddik and he directs us which area of Judaism we have to strengthen. But the Baal Shem Tov said that happens normally. But that person was so sick because his whole neshama, everything was ill. And he spoke to his neshama to speak to the tshuva. And the chicken soup was only a physical clothing, a method how to bring this cure. But it was really the fact that he was able to influence him spiritually to the tshuva, and that's what brought his cure, the person's cure. So
chicken soup without chew is chaser mashu, huh?
So our physical soul. So ultimately, what's good for Hashem made us that in a way that our physical and spiritual are connected. Okay, so it's not like I could just live a physical life and just be like a Gentile, live a Gentile life. A Jew, if he lives a Gentile life, he will never be happy, and not only he will, and spirit and it's very likely that also physically he's not going to do well, unless he's a tinok shenishba, someone who never learned, doesn't know. But someone who is accountable for what he does, normally it doesn't go hand in hand because our spiritual and physical go together, and definitely we don't have happiness because if your neshama is not happy, physically you're not going to feel happy. The Rebbe said it in many letters in Yiddish. It's called glik. Glik means like osher in Hebrew with the aleph. Like you can't have glik, you can't have osher, you can't have be happy a Jew if he's not a Torah observant Jew. Jews who are not observant, they're never happy, and they always and they wonder why they're not happy. They may have a lot of money, and that's why Jews always try to make themselves happy. You see Jews moving from one side of the town to another side of the town, always trying to upgrade their job, upgrade their car, upgrade the house. They're always busy trying to do something to make them happy because they feel a lack, and they don't necessarily understand that they're never going to feel happy unless it's like when a person is hungry and he's just going to go on nice trips and he's still hungry. It's not going to help him. And he doesn't recognize that he's hungry for food. Yeah?
Can I say something?
Sure.
Not only for material things, also for ideology, Marxism or psychoanalysis or things like this.
Right.
They always, I feel that they always look for something else who will fool them. My English,
there's
you can get it.
I understand. Yeah, there's an analogy in Chassidut of this, of a king who once was walking in the forest and he heard this shepherd playing this beautiful tune, and he loved it. He was like so amazing, and then he came back, and a day later he really wanted to hear it again, and he couldn't find that shepherd, and he just called musicians just to play any type of music, and he was hoping to hear that music, that tune. And they kept on playing all kinds of music, and he wasn't sad, he wasn't happy. So this is in a sense what the neshama was once upon a time in heaven, and he knows what he wants. He wants to have the dvekut, the closer to Hashem, and you just feel, I want something, I want this beautiful music, I want, and when a person is involved in Torah mitzvot, he's not necessarily going to feel it, he's not really going to be aware of it, but there's a certain relaxation, certain calmness that when a Jew is involved in Torah mitzvot, is going to feel. So this is, and it's because that we can't live. Hashem didn't make us in a way that we have a physical life and a spiritual life, even though we're trying to make it that way, that we have two souls, but at the same time we know that they are in each other. And in fact, the neshama is in the physical soul. The physical soul is hiding on it and concealing on it and trying to detach you from your neshama, but that's deep inside, and you always feel that deep call, I want something. So it's called the second soul. We started saying, why it's called the second soul, because we're born with a physical soul. And that neshama, the godly soul, starts entering our body in an internal way, by a woman at the birth, by a boy after the Brit Milah, and the full entry is by the Bar Mitzvah, Bat Mitzvah. So that's why Shlomo HaMelech in Kohelet, when he talks about the two sides of a person, the two with the two souls, he calls it Yetzer Tov Yetzer Hara. So when he refers to the Yetzer Hara, which is in essence the physical soul that has the what do you call it, the probability to be connected with the Yetzer Hara, right? Because the Yetzer Hara is the animal soul is very easily could be convinced by the Yetzer Hara, as opposed to the godly soul, which the Yetzer Hara cannot talk to it at all. So that's the advantage we have, because our godly soul only knows I want God. You can never convince it otherwise, and it's not interested about myself. It's interested about God. It's selfless. I just want what's right, what's God, what the Torah says. So that is it's out of the picture. There's no but the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov are fighting over the physical soul that is selfish. The Yetzer Hara is trying to say this is good for me. Yetzer Tov says no, this is good for you. Now, why is the Yetzer Hara usually or many times wins? Because the Yetzer Hara is trying to convince you to be involved more in the physical world. And we are physical people, and the physical soul is physical, the animal is physical. So it's easier for us to be convinced about doing physical things that's exciting, about spirituality, something more removed, more like, it's like you're trying to teach a child that it's a good idea, they should sit and learn Gemara for an hour. Good luck. So there's that's one reason. That we're physical people, and Yetzer Hara has easy way to convince us that this is good for us, because physical people think, okay, physical life is good. And the second is because he came first. So Shlomo HaMelech calls the Yetzer Hara Melech Zaken Uchsil. He calls him the foolish one, because we know he's foolish, he's fooling us. Maybe we're the foolish people. We being fooled by him, we being foolish by listening to him. But he's called Melech because he's already a king, and he's Zaken. Zaken means he's old. What means old? When it comes to the time when it's time to be accountable for your behavior, which is bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, he's already Zaken. He's already there for many years, and he's already a melech. He's already controlling you. To the Yetzer Tov, Shlomo HaMelech calls Yeled. He's a child. He's like he just came into the picture, because, like we said, the neshama, the godly soul, only starts functioning mostly after bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, and also is called misken. Yeled misken v'chacham. This is the way Shlomo HaMelech describes it. That there is a war. He says there's a war in the small city, and the whole time is based on these words of Shlomo HaMelech. That there's a small city, which is the guf, the body of the person, and there's two kings fighting over it. There's a king fighting over a child, basically. And he's misken, but he's chacham, he's wise. So that's the advantage. So there is a Gemara. It's also, we're about to learn Parashat Mishpatim next week. So there is one of the mitzvot is that it says Lo Tisa Shem Hashav. Lo Tisa Shem Hashav actually has a few things that we learn out from it. But one of the things is that a judge, Lo Tisa means not. It also means lashon hara. You see your lashon hara. Lo Tisa Shem Hashav, not to hear lashon hara. But it also has the pirush not to hear like false things. But basically, it has many meanings. One of the meanings is that if there's two people who have a court case, who have a dispute, right? The judge is not allowed to listen to one of the sides when the other side is not present there. For obviously, we understand, because once you hear one side, you accept it. The other side now has to defend himself. So they're not going to have equal power. Just like we know that according to Jewish law, when you have to treat both the same, either both sitting, both standing. You have to treat that both the same way, 100%. You have to kind of show more respect to one over the other. But also, one of the requirements is not to listen to one before the other, because then it's not fair. It has to be equally fair. So in a sense, this is what happens to us. Because we hear, when a person is born, all he hears is, what I'm going to do for myself. Like, all you're interested about yourself. Like even if you may get involved in as a child in Torah mitzvahs, the parents have to promise you're going to get prizes, or you're going to get a big Gan Eden, or you're going to become the Gadol Hador. I don't know whatever you tell them, whatever you tell your children. But it's like that's the way you could talk to. And this is according to halacha. The Rambam writes that you have to bribe them with in those days the treats,
Walnuts.
it was walnuts and shkedim, what's the word? Almonds and sweet fruit like dry fruits or something. Tzimukim, I think he says. That was the candies in those days. But that's the way that is the way to get them to raise children, because that's the only way they you can't expect children otherwise, because they don't have their, I mean, they have a neshama a little bit, and they could have certain feeling of doing things for the right, but it's not functioning so well. Only at the bar mitzvah, that's when the neshama comes in, and the neshama is interested to do it for the right reason, just to have dvekus in Hashem, to be connected with Hashem, because it's the emes, because it's the truth. But it's unfair, because you heard the animal soul for so long, and now it's like he's like a melech already. He's like a king. He's controlling you. And now this little child, this little weak child, is misken. Is in Yiddish nebach. Is like pity on him. How do you say misken? Like he has no chance. So what's the logic? Why did Hashem do it this way? So there is a vart from the Yitzchak Bardichov. Rabbi Avraham is one of the great defenders of Am Yisrael, always speaking good about Am Yisrael, about Jewish people. So he once said to Hashem that he has to be very gentle or very nice to Am Yisrael. He says, look what you did. You put all the temptations in front of our eyes. You just go on the street and you see everything that you're not supposed to do or not supposed to eat or whatever. And all the good things you hid in Reishis Chachma. You have to start, in the books. So if you would have done the other way, you put all the good things right in front of our eyes, and if a person wants to sin, he has to start opening the books, and then it will be fair. So why did Hashem do it otherwise? Because in chapter 12, the author brings from a pasuk from Shlomo HaMelech. He says, I saw. He says that there is advantage from wisdom over foolishness, like light over darkness. Now, the Shlomo is comparing wisdom to light and foolishness to darkness. In other words, if you're in darkness, you bring a drop of light, the darkness goes away. So light has such a koach, such a power, that the darkness has no chance before light. If Hashem would create us right away with the Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara, the Yetzer Hara would not have wouldn't have a potential. You would never want to look at the Yetzer Hara. Hashem had to give a certain power to the Yetzer Hara, to your selfishness and physical part, like give it a little power so it should be a real challenge, because it wouldn't work otherwise. It's like the story about Paro. There's a question. How could Hashem strengthen his heart? Then what's the free choice? And then Hashem keep on punishing him after he made the wrong choice. But Hashem made him make those wrong choices. So there's a story, I don't remember with who, but there was a great scholar who was called by the local king, and he said, I just heard a terrible thing that is written in the books of Jewish law. The Torah says that you're not allowed to bribe, you're not allowed to give shochat to a judge. But there's a permission to bribe a non-Jewish judge. What is that supposed to mean? So he said, very simple. When you go to a non-Jewish judge, and let's say you have a fight, a Jew against a non-Jew. So, a lot of times, maybe it's changing today, but a non-Jew will look more favorably at the non-Jew. So automatically he's going to favor the non-Jew over the Jew. So the Jew is allowed to bribe him, that way he'll treat him equally. So that's what he explained. So similarly with Paro, when Hashem strengthened his heart after all these makot, all these plagues, there was no chance that he should, even if he wants to stay wicked, but it was so powerful. This is what I think the Ibn Ezra explains this. He says that the makot were so powerful that he had no choice. He would have to surrender. And not because they really want to surrender, because he can't take it anymore. He can't take the suffering. So what Hashem did was Hashem didn't make him say no. Hashem gave him strength to tolerate the makot, that he should be able to have enough. That he should be able to tolerate it. That he should be able to take it, and he shouldn't feel like he has to. Like he can't take it anymore. Hashem gave him a little bit of strength that he he's not giving up yet, but still he had choice. He had free choice. Okay, so this is taking this back to what's going on now with the Yetzer Tov Yetzer Hara. That in a sense the Yetzer Tov, he that's light. The neshama is light, and the animal soul is darkness. So there's no chance. And the same with Torah, mitzvahs. Like the Gemara says, what do you do if you're attacked by the Yetzer Hara? He really tries very hard to get you to sin. You feel very urged to do something wrong. He says, very simple. Mashcheu lebet midrash. Fine. So the Gemara says, all you need to do, take him to the Bet Midrash with you. Take him to the house of study. Start studying Torah. He will disappear. And it's an amazing thing, because many, and this is like the alphabet of Judaism, because many times we don't feel like it. And we don't want to, we say, first we want to feel like we want to do the mitzvah, and then we'll do it. And the Torah says the opposite. Do it and then you'll feel it. Because the moment you will do the mitzvah, the moment you learn a little bit of Torah, you're bringing light, and then the darkness will disappear. This is the message of, this is the method. This is the way to do it. So Hashem created the world, and He knew, and He wanted it to be a challenge between the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. So what did Hashem do? He put the good things in the books, in the Reshis Chachma, and all the temptations in front of our eyes. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a chance. So Hashem, it's like it's the way Chassidus puts it. It says Hashem gave to the negative things koach to be like a monkey in front of people. What does that mean? A monkey may look like a human being, but obviously it's a monkey. So, in other words, we're going to learn a lot about it in Tanya, that Hashem gave a certain strength to the Yetzer Hara, to the Klippa, to the physical temptations, to be tempting, to have a little pleasure, but it's incomparable to the pleasure and the feeling that you may have when you have a life of holiness, life of kedusha. But Hashem gave it that strength and that pleasure to be able to pull you, to be a free choice, and it's all for our benefit. Then Hashem could reward us for a good choice. Otherwise, if there's nothing pulling us the other way, so it's not a big deal if we choose the right way. So Hashem made it that way.
You have to fight Him.
That should be a challenge. And that's why that's the answer for the question we asked before. That's why when a person is born, he's born with his Yetzer Hara, he's born with the animal physical soul, he's born with that feeling of selfishness, and Hashem gives koach to the Yetzer Hara to become your king, but then Hashem gives you the Yetzer Tov. And Shlomo Melech says, yes, it's a Yeled, he's just the new guy on the block, like the new, and he's misken, like you think about him like the guy, you see the guy who is studying Torah all day or doing mitzvah, like he's not really having fun, but really he's chacham. Really, he has the advantage of being chacham of the what Shlomo Melech says later in Kohelet, that chokhmah is like light, and he really has a good, meaningful life, and the chokhmah could overpower everything else. So this is the. Yeah, you want to say something?
Well, I just want to know. You said that they're both melech. One's Yeled and one's...
No. I said that they both want to be melech.
Oh, no, I'm trying to understand where the misken is tipesh and chacham, and then you have the extra of miskenut on the Yetzer Tov. That's like a disadvantage there.
Yeah. Look. I mean, the moment... Later on, the Tanya says that it's like two kings fighting over the city, because it's like they both want, but melech is a certain feeling, like
a power.
Power. It's more of a power. Like I'm in power. Like it's so obvious for me to take care of my physical needs. If you want to spend time Torah mitzvot, that's.
Well, why misken? That's where I'm struggling, and that's number one. Number two, if something should be so wonderful when you're doing the mitzvah, and that's the light, and that's the chachma, how come there are many people, unfortunately, that chazrim b'she'elah? Did they not achieve the mitzvahs in the proper way? I mean, they seem like they... Maybe it's not for an answer now, it's just something to think about. how does that light
Yeah,
shut
yeah.
down?
I'm not sure about misken, what exactly, but I think that
It's okay if there's no answer.
yeah, no. Misken means like in a sense, it's like when like with the example we gave before. There's two people coming to court, and the first person gave his. You heard one side first. The other guy has no it's dispute on him. Like nobody wants to hear him. In that sense, not necessarily it's going to be this way, but the start off point is like that. When you become bar mitzvah, he is the melech, he's the zaken, he is the yalad and misken in a sense, like he has no chance, and you also look at him like, what do you want? Like it's not really something I'm excited about.
I mean, maybe the analogy is like this: like you're talking about a 13-year-old. The Yetzer Hara soul is 13 years older.
Right.
So the younger brother is always going to be beaten up, knocked around by the older brother, and you have 13 years advanced. There's no way you can ever catch up. So
No,
that's
he could catch up but naturally there is a struggle of here.
That's what I'm saying. A chacham could catch up with a tipesh.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and the concept of
Yeah.
seeing the light and experiencing.
So that's one more point, that Hashem also created that the neshama is enclosed in the physical soul. So that's another challenge, to bring it from its concealment, because the physical soul is more revealed, you're more aware of it. The neshama is like a struggle. But the neshama has the advantage of light, the advantage is part of God. And this is the whole idea of Yisrael, of the koach. What's Yisrael? Sar Kel. I have the koach of Hashem. That when was Yaakov called that name? When he had the mavak, the challenge with the angel of Esav, and with Lavan and with Esav, there was no problem, because if you have peace of God, you could not. Just like no one would ever think to say that anything can control God, nothing can control you. We have ability. There's nothing that is beyond our ability. So we have that koach. We just have to get to it. Like it says, like otzar shelirat shamayim. It's called the treasure. To get to the treasure, you have to dig. You have to. It's work. It's effort, but it's there. But we have an unbelievable potential. That's the whole point. Okay, so let's now we just tried to explain how it starts us off. But now we're going to talk more in chapter 2 about the greatness of our neshama. What is so special about this godly soul? So last week we gave 3 different sources where it's describing the Jewish soul. Okay? The first is when Adam HaRishon was created, it says that Hashem blew the neshama in his nostrils. And we said when Hashem created the world, it says Hashem spoke and the world was created. So we explained what's the difference between speaking and blowing. That when you speak, it's more external breath. But when you blow, the breath comes from within. And we understood that Hashem is beyond these terminologies. We just want to have everything in the Torah is just a mashal, just an idea to understand a concept. It's giving us the concept, the difference between the neshama, the neshama that we have, and the rest of creation. When we say rest of creation, it could mean animals, it could mean rocks and stones, inanimate things, plants. It could mean also human being. It could also mean the human being, the one part of us, because we are creations of Hashem, and we just have a neshama in us. So our body, in a sense, is similar to every other human being, even not in a sense. It's a little bit different, but it's similar to our non-Jewish, to all the rest of the nations. But then we have, so whenever we talk in the Torah about the goy, it says Hagoy Asher B'Kirbecha. So in Chassidus it says, what's Hagoy Asher B'Kirbecha? The goy inside you. Not necessarily means goy. Like a goy could also mean me. Like when we talk about the 7 nations, 7 nations represent 7 levels of negative attribute traits. Like we do on Sefirat HaOmer, we work on the 7 attribute traits. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. Each one of them represent another 7 nations that lived in Eretz Yisrael, which Eretz Yisrael is Jewish land. So we have something that we have to refine within ourselves. But above all that, we also have a neshama. And that's what we're focusing on. What's the greatness of this neshama, of this godly soul? In other words, This is a very hard thing to understand. It is a little bit depth. The whole creation is from Hashem. So what's the difference? What does that mean when we say that we have a neshama that is part of Hashem, but the whole world is also part of Hashem, right? So we gave a few examples. Let's just go through the examples and then we'll analyze it. The first is, if you think about the difference in breathing, blowing, which is inner breath, and talking. So the whole creation came from Hashem's speech, including the angels, and the neshama of Adam came from Hashem, so to speak, ata nefachta bi, blowing. And then we said that it says in the Torah, Adam atem kurim Adam. It says in the Cheskel, I think, that we are called Adam. There is a story with the father of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson? No, I'm mixing up. The guy, the Joker, the guy who says what's the name? No, Michael Jackson. One second.
Some comedian?
Comedian. No, what's his name? Famous comedian, Jewish comedian. What's his name?
Bill Meyer?
No.
That's a big list.
Jackie Mason. Sorry, I'm mixing up. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jackie Mason's father was a big rabbi in Russia. So at the time of the Bayless trial, so he was asked about this, like it says in the Torah, that we are Adam. Is that to say that the Gentiles are not Adam, are not human beings? So he explained, he said the word Adam is the only title for human being that is singular tense. Because normally Ish, for example, as Anashim, plural. A man, men, which other, Gever, Gvarim. Other titles for people, there is plural. But Adam has only, you use the same for plural or for singular. So he said the Jewish people are called Adam because even though there might be many Jews, they're all like one. And he says what's happening right now is the biggest proof for it, because here there's one man who is accused for a terrible thing, and then all the Jewish people are to blame for, and there's riots and all over Russia, all the Jews are suffering because of one Jew that is being accused for something. So you see the unity of Am Yisrael, that we are Adam, we are one. Anyways, so we are called Adam because we have the neshama of Adam. One of the biggest things was that Adam Arishon is buried together with Avram, with the four fathers in Hebron, because Adam, in a sense, is connected. We have the Jewish people have a special connection to Adam, because Adam was created with that special neshama, and because of his sin, he disconnected from that neshama. He definitely didn't pass it on to the next generations. And Avraham Avinu was the first one that got this neshama, which is called the Jewish soul, that neshama that was blown into Adam Arishon. This is what the Arizal explains. Okay, so that's special neshama that is considered blowing because from within. And then we have other examples. When the Medrash talks about the Jewish people, he says the whole world is created from speech. Hashem spoke and the world was created. But the neshama of a Jew came from the level of thought. It says, Israel alu b'machshava. We came on the level of thought before creation. And again, what's the difference between thought and speech? Thought is the way. What's the difference between thought and speech? Let's say you have either intellectual thought or emotion. When you think about it the way you really feel it and the way you really understand it. When you give it over, people will never get through your speech what you really feel, what you really understand. They'll get some trace of it, some external part of it. So if you realize this, it's the same differences between blowing and speaking. It's similar idea, different in thought and speech. And then we have one more source in the Torah. This is clearly in the Torah. When Hashem takes us out of Mitzrayim, what does it tell Moshe? B'ni b'chori Yisrael. The Jewish people are my children. And what do we mean by children? If a child has a central connection to his parents. It's his essence. For example, like for one of the things Chassidus said, let's say someone who has physical blemish, someone who's blind, someone who has whatever it is, but when he has a child, the child may not have the problem of the parents. Why? Because when you're bringing a child to the world, it's your essence. And the problem that you have is something external. But you're drawing your essence, and in essence, you're perfect. Your soul is perfect, and you're drawing the energy from your essence. And that's why the child, it says, Yafeh koach haben mikoach ha'av. The child could be greater than the parents. How could it be? Because you're not giving them your external, you're giving them your internal. And they may actualize your potential that you didn't, they may actualize it. So the children are drawn from the essence of the parents. And if you think about other kinds of relationships, for example, king with his subject, that's really far relationship. But even a teacher with students, or
you think about nature versus nurture?
Right. So it's really when you're what are you giving to? There's a saying in Yiddish, a kop kemish taruf stellen, and this saying means that you cannot create a head. What does that mean? That if you have a student who's very weak, what could you do? You could try to explain an idea, but if the student is not on the level, you can't do anything about it. Because when you are teaching, you're not creating his head. You're giving a little idea. He has to have already brains from before. You're giving him like a little a little external idea. You're not giving him brains. But when you bring a child to the world, you're creating his brains. You're creating his essence. So this is the idea of children. Hashem says, "You're my children." So what does it mean we're his children? That we, just like a child, has in him and the essence of his parents, so too our neshama. What's the greatness, the quality of the Jewish soul? That we have part of the essence of God. So it's all the same idea. And now that we see it in three different sources, the first one is Adam HaRishon, the idea of blowing the neshama, which is blowing is from within. And then we have the idea of thought as opposed to speech. That thought is the way you think, the way you understand. And the idea of children, that we are considered the children of Hashem. Like when we say on Rosh Hashanah, we say Avinu Malkeinu, you are a father and a king. That's our two parts, the physical soul and the godly soul. From our godly soul, we are considered children of Hashem because our neshama is part of the essence of Hashem. And from our physical side, we're servants, we are avadim. We're referring to Hashem in both Avinu Malkeinu, from both sides of ourselves. So, what does that mean? Everything is part of Hashem. But the question is it still in touch with Hashem? Okay? What makes a creation, when we say that Hashem created the world, yesh me'ayin, what makes us, the definition of the creation is entities, okay, that feel that they are, they feel that they are separated, that they feel that they are an entity on their own. Okay? Let's take an extreme example of Paro, where Paro says, I created myself. Okay? So in a sense, we laugh at Paro. How could you create yourself? But in a sense, that's what we act like this all the time, that we created ourselves. We don't think, well, Hashem created us, and we feel anything. I mean, that's still, now we're reading a Seder Dibrot. That's, if we think about it, the big question is, one of the 10 commandments is Kabet Avicha V'et Imecha, and we know that the 10 commandments are divided into 2, 5 and 5. First 5 is between us and Hashem, and the second 5 is between us and our fellow Jew, right? So it's 2 tablets. Now, when we look on the right tablet, it looks like there's one mitzvah that got in there. It doesn't belong there. The mitzvah of Kabet Avicha V'et Imecha, honor your parents. What does that have to do with God? That's to do between you and your fellow Jew. But the commentaries talk about it, that really honoring your parents is the way to honor Hashem. Why? If you think about it, why did Hashem need us to have parents? just like the trees. We were like trees, right? Adam Etz HaSadeh, so we could grow from the ground like the trees. Why was it necessary for us to have a father and mother? So the idea of having father and mother, and the fact that we feel like we have to honor them, is because of two things. First of all, they brought us to this world, and then after they brought us to the world, the parents take care of the children. So it gives us a little bit of perspective about God. When we constantly feel, oh, this is my parents. They brought me to the world, and when I was a child, and hopefully also after you get married, you need your parents. You have, they help you raise your children, and parents go on and on and on for the rest of your life. It's many times, but anyways, for sure when you're a child. So it's an amazing thing, and it gives us a little bit then from our parents we think, well, there's a third partner, right? It says that when a person is born, there's three partners: the father and mother and Hashem. And we realize that it makes us appreciate Hashem and realize that we have obligations towards Hashem, because Hashem also brought us to this world, and Hashem also taking care of us on a constant basis. So it's really part of the right tablet between us and Hashem, because this is the way, as the Ramban explained, this is the way to serve Hashem, through our parents, through recognizing our parents. So, I lose my train of thought. What was I saying before that? Okay. So, okay. I got it. Okay. So what makes the creation considered creation? That the creation feels like it's its own entity, like Paro. He says, "I created myself," and then the greatest miracle of when Yaakov came to Mitzrayim, first of all, he stopped the years of famine, and also he gave him a blessing that whenever he's going to go to the Nile will rise and water the whole country of Mitzrayim. And instead of recognizing Yaakov and Yaakov's God, that it's here I have a blessing for our God, he attributed it all to himself. He says, "Look, ani li yori, the yor is mine. Look, the yor is listening to me." It made the blessing that he got ended up making him a bigger ego. This is why we know that Hashem arranged that Esav should not be the one to get the blessings. Yitzchak was hoping he didn't get so many blessings, he's going to recognize God more, he's going to become better. But Hashem knew it's not going to happen, because someone like Esav, the more blessings, in the contrary, it's going to strengthen his ego, and that's what happened to Paro. So this is what Paro said, and obviously that's a little bit extreme. In a way, in this world, every person feels naturally everything is about me. And you don't feel, well, I'm being created by God. You don't think like that. You don't feel like that. And this is definition of creation, of Bria. Yesh me'ayin. That you feel that you are yesh, you are something, you are an entity. And Hashem, the godliness, the spirituality is ayin. It doesn't exist, or it's beyond, like I don't even think about it. It's as if it doesn't exist. And what if we say, so even though we all really part of Hashem, but it's like speech. What happens when you talk? Like we have recorder, right? So when you record a speech, you could hear the speech on the recorded, and you don't necessarily, you could see me, you could see the recording, you don't necessarily connect between the two, right? The speech is going out of you and it goes into people's mind. There's no connection anymore. It's separated from you. Your thought is part of you. Your speech separates from you. So this is what it means that Hashem created the world like with speech. That Hashem created the world in a way that the energy of God that created every creation has a part of God in him, created him, the spark of God, but it doesn't feel the connection. So it's not to say that, Jews are connected to Hashem, the rest of the world not connected to Hashem. We all connected to Hashem, a whole creation. But it came to a stage of distance, of concealment. What's the greatness of our neshama? The our neshama, when we say it's part of Hashem, it's like thought. Thought is the way I see it to myself. In other words, this neshama sees the world like Hashem sees the world. because it's part of Hashem. What Hashem means that it's still like part of the thought of Hashem. It's part of the essence of Hashem. It's like a child that is part of the essence of his father. And you could look at the child, you see the character of the parents. We have within ourselves the neshama that is the character of God that has emunah. We have emunah in Hashem. We live a life of emunah. I don't know if there would be any other nation that would have this land, the country of Israel, right, with all the threats around. They would all leave. I mean, unfortunately, like you said, there's people who may leave, but in general, Am Yisrael in general, of course, there's some people who struggle with their neshama, but Jewish people live with emunah. You could see even a Jew who is officially not religious, every Jew has emunah. So emunah means it's a different way of looking at life. We have a piece of us, piece of God, which means that we have the advantage of having a neshama means that when we say godly soul, it means a piece that is still connected with God. It still feels its attachment to God. And we have it. Now, within ourselves, that part may be hidden, but it's there. And sometimes we're in tune with it. And sometimes a person could be detached from it. Like when some people who look at religious people, that it's like you're trying to escape from life, right? You're trying to, you have challenges. It's like the guy who is about to get married, and his father-in-law says, "So how are you going to support yourself?" He says, "Hashem will help." So he turns around and says, "My future son thinks I'm God." So people look at religion, maybe it's like trying to escape, trying to run away. But but you see a lot of times people go through a tragedy and suddenly, like I think I mentioned this story that touched me, like when there was maybe about a year ago when this person, I think it was Tel Aviv or near somewhere, maybe Ra'anana or the Sharon, one of those cities in the Merkaz. Unfortunately, they had a babysitter. The babysitter wasn't watching, and one of the kids drowned in the bathtub. And it was in the hospital, and he was talking on the radio. He says, I'm not religious, but in such times we all daven, we all pray, so please, everybody could daven. And this person was, the way he said it, he was like, I'm not religious at all. But he said, let's daven. So people, and people who are not religious, so people are not, people people who are not Jewish, could never understand. They could have they have a Jewish friend, okay, who's not religious at all, and suddenly he goes Yom Kippur to shul, and suddenly he davens. It doesn't make any sense because only by Jews it's like that. Why is it? Because we all have that neshama, we all have that awareness to God, but it could be concealed, and the concealment is from our physical part, which is basically our ego. It's ourselves. Anytime that we go through a challenge, the klipa breaks, the ego breaks, and automatically the neshama shines. So it's not just because a person is going through a struggle, is trying to run away and trying to go to God. It's really it's a natural thing that this feeling to God is gonna wake up. As soon as you go through a challenge, it comes out. That's the way it is. The previous Rabbi was, thank God, it was miraculously he left Poland, but he was there at the beginning of the war, of the Second World War, and he was hiding in this shelter. And the Nazis, they just came. It was in Warsaw. They just came to the airplanes. They were just bombing buildings and buildings. Like many people got killed, many people got injured, and there was a bomb that fell right near where they were. And it was such a big explosion that everybody thought they're dying. Everybody thought that it's going to hit them. And the previous Rebbe was there with all kinds of Jews, like all kinds of backgrounds, like Jews who were not affiliated at all. And he said, I was amazed. Everybody screamed Shema Yisrael. He said, Jews that you think, they're nothing, they're not connected at all. They never go to shul. Everybody screams Shema Yisrael. He says it was so obvious that every Jew has that piece of God, has that just like a child. Like no matter what a child will do, the parents will always feel the connection. It's like that's the way it is. The child might conduct his life like in a terrible way, might be in jail for the worst crimes. There's always the connection. There's always the feeling of connection to the parents, or children to the parents. And this is the way we all, that's the gift of the second soul that we have that spark of that of being able to see the world like Hashem sees the world, and that is our shlichut, because what Hashem wants, what Hashem desires, is to turn this whole world to turn it to be a place of God, to be a place that to bring the ore of the Torah, the ore of the mitzvah to the world, which is ultimately going to be when Mashiach will come. But we are working on it now. We're working on it now, and when Mashiach will come, and we're already almost finished. We know the Geula is very near, but we don't see it because we don't see things. It's like when you're today. This concept in Kabbalah is more understood, because back in the days, we know whatever we don't see doesn't exist. But now we know there's bacteria that we don't see. There's energies, all the ideas of tuma, tara, purity, impurity. It was considered a chok. Like today, people who start learning Torah, they say, oh, it makes sense, because there's bad bacteria, good bacteria, there's energies, there's electrics, all these. Suddenly, the world. That's what it means that the world is getting closer to Torah, because you start seeing things that there's things that we don't see. But so we know that every time all the Torah mitzvahs that we do brought so much ore to the world, and we still don't see it. Mashiach will, and I mean, of course, we see there's a certain refinement in the world, the effect of it we see, but ultimately Mashiach will come, we'll actually see it. But we are the emissaries of Hashem, and in order to be an emissary, imagine you have a company here in Israel, let's say, and you're trying to sell your product all over the world. So you have to have a person who keeps on flying overseas to introduce the product to different companies all over the world. So this is exactly, so that's called intermediary. Intermediary has to be here and there. So here Hashem created the spiritual world, the world of Kedusha, the holiness, the godliness. And then there is this world, the world of Klippa, the world that doesn't know about Hashem. And Hashem wanted to have an emissary, to have someone to connect between the two. This is Mamish Shkoch, this is Parshas Yisro. And Hashem took Jewish people and made us half physical, half spiritual, half godly, half human being. And we are like that person who is there and here, and we live a physical life like the rest of the world, and most of our day we have to take care of our physical needs. We live at mamish everything like everybody else, but then we have that spark that gives, or I mean, like there's a medrash that says, Hashem says there's two candles. There's the neshama, which is a candle, and there's Torah mitzvah, is a candle. The Torah mitzvah is called ner mitzvah v'torah or. The Torah mitzvah is called candle, and our neshama is called candle. Hashem says, you keep my candle, I keep your candle. Right? Hashem says, we have to bring that ore of the neshama through Torah mitzvah. It goes together, and that's how we're able to bring ore to our physical and the physical in the world, and we're able to transform the world. But this is where Hashem created us, with this dual personality. And it's basically that we should be able to be the, and this is what happened on Parshat Yisrael, Har Sinai, because what Hashem does is Hashem tells Moshe to go up, and Hashem comes down. It's basically that we have the meeting of heaven and earth, and this is what we were. That's what happens in ourselves. We have the meeting. What time is it? Oh, it's already 9 o'clock. Okay. You want to ask questions? Questions? Comments? No? Yeah.
Yes. You just said that a Jew is one half physical and one half spiritual.
Yeah.
A person that's not a non-Jew, are they 100% physical? But then a person that is seeking, a non-Jew that is seeking God, following the seven laws of Noah, then what are they? I mean,
yeah, you have a good question. When we say spiritual, it's a tricky word. It's more true to say half godly, half physical, or because in the physical there's also spiritual. In other words, even Paro said he recognized Elohim. Mm-hmm. Okay, the difference is it's like It's like when you hear speech, right? So when you hear speech, you know someone is speaking these words, but you don't connect between the person and the words and the speech. In other words, in this world, there's definitely sparks of God, and that's why every normal person, it's logical that there is God in the world. But what all the nations believe is that there is Hashem and Elohim. They separate between the two. I mean, they believe. I mean, and everything has to have a source. So they believe there's a God in this world, which is called God of nature, called Shem Elohim. They call it the God of nature, and they connect with that God. They connect with that. So basically, we know that the energy that Hashem put in the world is one. Everything is one. There is the essence of God. Then there is the energies that He contracted in the world, and then there is the physical. It's all one. But they don't recognize Hashem, or even they recognize, they think Hashem created and He disappeared. But they recognize there is energies in the world, and that's what they worship. They worship those energies of God that are in the world, which are true energies, but we know that they're part of God. But they separate between the two. So they like the sun, the moon, and these constellations, and all these idol worship is to make an idol out of the energies that God created in the world, and making it an entity. So it's not true to say that every human being has physical and spiritual, but the spiritual is as part of the creation. In other words, you could have spiritual which is still has the feeling of a creation of its own entity. So and the truth is that Hashem doesn't demand. There's a very interesting halacha. There is Sheva mitzvot b'Noach, the 7 Noahide laws, and one of them is to believe in God. And also a Jew has the mitzvah of believing in God. But there's a difference. A Jew has to believe in God and to believe that there is nothing else besides God. In other words, all the energies, all the souls, and all the creations, everything is part of Hashem. That's called mitzvah of unity of God, Achdut Hashem. But a Gentile is allowed to believe, like Christianity for a non-Jew is okay, because for someone who is not Jewish, it's okay for him to as long as he believes that there's a God who created everything. He could believe that there is a second to God, or to believe that there is other energies that were created by God. It's okay for them to believe that.
There's
Why?
An intermediary.
There's an intermediary. Why for a Gentile it's okay as long as he believes that there's a God above it, all that, it's fine.
I thought it was idolatry.
It's called idolatry for a Jew, and it's also, and for a Jew it's a biggest sin. For a non-Jew, Hashem is not expecting more than that, because they don't have that godly soul. They don't have the ability to connect to the real reality, because they don't have a neshama. Because we have the godly soul, we have the natural emunah and faith, and we have it's like re'iyah. What's re'iyah? Re'iyah means that you see it. Like if you see something, seeing is believing. So our neshama, it's still part of God and sees God. So in the back of our consciousness, we know there's Hashem, and we don't need a proof for that, because we're connected to it, and therefore we could reach that level. For a Gentile, Hashem is not expecting to reach that level. I mean, of course, a Gentile could reach if he wants, but it's not expected because they don't have the ability, they don't have the tool for it, because they're not connected with that infinity of God. They have the spirituality, and they have an intellectual soul, which is they have spiritual life, but they could only connect to the energy of God that is enclosed in nature, which is called Shem Elohim. And that's what Paro uses all the time, Shem Elohim. He says, Et Hashem lo yadati. He says, Yud Kevavke, I don't know. Because he's removed from... And Elohim is Gematria, the same numerical value as a Hateva.
Nature.
And Elohim is also the Otiot Ilem Yudke. It's like Yudke is mute. It's like, it's muting out. Yudke, Vavke, like the infinity of God is out of the picture. There's only God, Elohim, the only energy of God in the creation. It's like... And it's also another gematria. Elohim is gematria, all in Kabbalah. It's Elohim is gematria kos. It's like a cup. It's a cup that hides what's inside. So that's the energy of God that is in the nature, is hiding on much, and the essence of it, which is the infinite aura of Hashem. So they look at God as something more finite, because they see God in nature. They don't see that God is beyond that. And that gives, one more point, a whole different perspective of religions. By Christianity, or by other religions, the focus is spiritual. Because if you look at God as in a finite way, so you understand that spiritual is much more meaningful than physical. So their religion is based on meditation, on more on spiritual. Judaism is the opposite. It's focused on physical, on the action of the mitzvot, which Gentiles could make fun of it. They say, "Well, it doesn't make any sense. Like, what? Physical is nothing." But Judaism is focused on physical and also appreciates the spiritual as something that gives life to this physical. So in Judaism, the main thing is the mitzvah, like putting on tefillin, and the ahava and yirah, the feeling is enhancing the physical mitzvah. Why? Because in Judaism, we understand that God is beyond, not only beyond physical, also beyond spiritual. We understand that our spiritual God is beyond our physical and spiritual equally. Our spiritual is not a step closer to Hashem. So for Hashem, our physical and spiritual is the same. We're distant from Hashem equal way. And our physical brings out more our nullification to Hashem, our action. And as opposed to our feelings and emotion and intellectual, it's more about our ego, the way we feel, we understand. So that's what Judaism is about, more about Hashem is beyond, is infinite. It's about nullifying yourself before Hashem. And just doing the mitzvah. And that's how you're a vessel for the infinity of Hashem. And then you bring in the meditation and the emotion in to enhance the physical doing of the mitzvah, the simple act of the mitzvah. But if you look at Hashem as finite spiritual, so then you say my spiritual is connected with God. My physical is far. So the physical has no. It's all about the spiritual, not about the physical.
More question.
Yeah, just a side question. You said that the godly soul is only for the Jewish people.
Yeah.
So what about people who convert? Like,
No,
they
today.
change your soul?
Yeah. They get an extra soul. Yeah. That's where it says that a convert is like a newborn, because he has like a new life now.
But the contrary is not possible. Like if a Jew convert to Christianism.
No, you can't lose that soul. You can't lose it.
Never. There is no point in the Torah or apikoros, something like that.
A person could separate from his neshama, but it's always going to be there. He could be, he could hide it because it could be more hidden, but it's always there. He cannot remove it. He's always it's impossible.
It's all the stuff with klipa and everything.
Yeah, in this parsha we say that Am Yisrael is called Am Sgula. What's Sgula? Sgula is like a segol. A segol, you know a segol? One of the vowels you call it? Vowels is segol. It looks like a triangle.
Yeah.
3 dots.
So 3 dots. If you turn it around, it's always going to stay 3 dots. It's the same thing. So that's why it says we call it Am Sgula. It says in Kabbalah because no matter how much you turn around, you're still going to stay segula. You're still going to stay with your neshama. You can't get rid of it. You may hide it more, but it's always going to be there. But for a non-Jew, actually, it says that a Gentile, when he converts, even before he converted, he already had the Chidah. Has an amazing idea about it. He says if you look in the Gemara, where he talks about someone who was not obligated mitzvot and became obligated. So, for example, it takes an example of a child that became bar mitzvah. So it says katan nitbager, a child who became an adult. But when he talks about a ger, it doesn't say goy shenitgayer. It says ger shenitgayer. You look in the Gemara all over, it always says ger shenitgayer, not goy shenitgayer. So the Chidah says why? Because someone converted, even before they converted, they were already called ger. They already had special potential to have the neshama,
And how do you take off the klipa? It's only by.
For someone who converts.
No. If you said that the difference between someone who doesn't have the soul, it's like the perception of God. Some people will see it according to the nature, which is related to Elohim, and the other will see Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is like above nature.
Right.
So is the way to take off the klipa to be much more to be closer to this part? Is it to focus on God, that is Yud-Kei and to get a
for sure.
distance with...
Right. This is what we started today's class. We said that this advantage of or, like the Shlomo said, this is chokhmah over sichut, foolishness over wisdom. That's like or and choshech. That the klipa is made out of darkness. And the way to get rid of it, some people say, until I feel, then I'll do. The answer is no. Because you're not going to feel it, because you have this klipa. Every time you do a mitzvah, you are removing and you're refining that klipa. So the more Torah mitzvahs you do with the more meditation, like you're thinking about Hashem, and the more emunah, the more like emunah is from the word lihitamen, like the Alter Rebbe says, which is there to train yourself. You have to keep on thinking about it, and the more Torah mitzvahs you do, the more you're connecting with your neshama. That's where the whole concept of mitzvah, goret mitzvah, and avera, goret avera. Why one mitzvah brings another mitzvah, avera brings another avera? Because every avera strengthens the klipa, strengthens the concealment. And then you're even less likely, you're more likely you're going to do another sin. But a mitzvah is bringing another mitzvah, because every mitzvah is revealing more and more your neshama, and the more your neshama is revealed, the more you're going to feel a push to do more and more mitzvot. So it's only through acting. If you want to be more in touch with your neshama, it's only through what do you call it? Action. Maaseh wa'ikar. You got to keep on doing.
Thank you very much.
Do you want to make an announcement on Motzi Shabbos?
No, it's already.
Too late?
No, that's okay. It's finished. We're already fully booked.